Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum and welcome to channel. I am Muhammad Hani Khalifah, an academic researcher, practitioner in Islamic economic and finance. On this channel, we will explore ideas, current issue, and practical insight related to Islamic economic and finance and the halal industry. Thank you for joining this academic session on Islamic economic and finance as a value creation paradigm. I will not present Islamic finance merely as set of prohibition, nor simply as technical alternative to conventional banking. The more important question is, what kind of value does the system try to create, for whom, and through which institutional mechanism? The contemporary context makes this question urgent. The Islamic finance services industry has moved into the mainstream of global finance, with the IFSB reporting total global Islamic financial asset approximately 4.4 trillion in 2025. Sukuk outstanding crossed at 1 trillion threshold at the end 2025, while ESG and green sukuk continue to attract global investors. Yet, market growth alone is not the ultimate test. In Islamic economics, growth must be examined through justice, accountability, sharing, real sector linkage, and social welfare. Therefore, the central proposition of this presentation is simple. Islamic economics and finance create value when they transform money into productive asset, ethical enterprises, sustainable infrastructure, and fair distribution. Let's begin from that analytical lens. This roadmap is designed to move from philosophy to practice. I will begin the philosophical foundation because Islamic finance cannot be properly understood only through contract. Its logic begins Tauhid, Khilafah, Falah, justice, and Maqasid Sharia. These ideas determine what counts as legitimate economic outcome. Second, we will examine the core prohibition, riba, gharar, maisir. These are often introduced as restriction, but in analytical terms, they are value creation filter. They prevent capital from being allocated to incentives that generate income without productive contribution, transparent exchange, or shared risk. Third, we will move to instrument and institution. Akad, Islamic banking, sukuk, takaful, zakat, wakaf. Each institution contributes a different layer of value, from commercial profitability to social redistribution. Finally, we will discuss contemporary application and frontier green sukuk, Islamic fintech, maqasid-based measurement, and current debate such as IOFI Sharia Standard number 62. Greenwashing risk, and the limited use of profit and loss sharing. The aim is to give you a complete analytical framework, not merely a descriptive catalog of the product. On this slide, I want to establish the main analytical distinction: value creation versus value extraction. Conventional economic frequently evaluate finance through return, risk, liquidity, and efficiency. These are important, but Islamic economic asks a prior normative question. Does the transaction expand real welfare, or does it merely redistribute wealth through leverage, speculation, or informational advantage? Value creation occurs when finance support trade, production, infrastructure, entrepreneurship, employment, education, health, or environmental resilience. In contrast, value extraction occurs when income is generated without genuine productive contribution, for example, through excessive speculation, exploitative debt, or opaque contractual advantage. This distinction is very relevant today. The global economy faces persistent debt pressure, climate transition needs, inequality, food and energy volatility, and geopolitical uncertainty. In such as environmental finance should not become detached from the real economy. Islamic finance attempt to discipline that detachment by requiring a connection to asset, services, enterprises, or socially beneficial redistribution. The key message is this: Islamic finance is not only about avoiding interest. It is about designing a financial architecture in which returns are justified by ownership, risk-bearing, trade, use of fraud, services, or social contribution. The Tawhidic worldview is the intellectual foundation of Islamic economics. Tawhid means that all resources are ultimately belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and human beings are trustee rather than absolute owner. This changed the meaning of economic freedom. Freedom exists, but it is bounded by accountability, justice, and moral responsibility. The concept of khilafah means stewardship. Wealth is not rejected, rather wealth must be managed responsibly. The concept of falah expands the objective of economic life beyond short-term utility or profit maximization. Success includes material well-being, moral integrity, social balance, and accountability in the hereafter. The concept of adl and mizan introduce justice and balance. They require fairness in the contract, transparency in exchange, and moderation in the consumption. These ideas are extremely relevant in the current era of digital finance, algorithmic trading, consumer debt, and climate pressure. A financial system might be technically efficient, but ethically incomplete if it increases fragility, exploitation, or ecological harm. Therefore, Islamic economic begin not with the question, how can we maximize return, but with how should wealth be earned, used, circulate, and governed. Maqasid Sharia provide the evaluative framework for Islamic economic activity. The classical essentials are the protection of faith, life, intellect, progeny, and wealth. These are not abstract categories. These can be translated into concrete economic outcome. For example, protecting life include access to food, health, housing, and safe infrastructure. Protecting intellect include education, knowledge, production, and financial literacy. Protecting wealth include property right, fair contract, product investment, and protection from exploitation. Protecting future generation require intergenerational justice, which is why contemporary scholars increasingly discuss environmental protection as part of Maqasid reasoning. This is where Islamic finance meets sustainable finance. A green sukuk that finance clean transport or renewable energy can be understood not only as an ESG instrument but also as a Maqasid-based instrument because it protects life, wealth, and the future generation. Similarly, microfinance or zakat-based empowerment protect both wealth and human dignity. The important implication is that profitability is necessary but not sufficient. A product is valuable only when its economic substance advances welfare, justice, and social resilience. The three major prohibitions should be understood as institutional safeguard. Riba prevents a risk-free return on money merely because time has passed. This doesn't mean Islam denies the importance of time, inflation, or opportunity cost. Rather, Islam require the return to be justified through trade, ownership, leasing, services, or share enterprises risk. Gharar address excessive uncertainty. In the practical term, it requires clarity what is being sold, at what price, under what condition, and with what right and obligation. This protects weaker party and reduce dispute. Modern examples include hidden fees, unclear insurance term, complex derivative, or digital contract that consumers don't fully understand. Maisir prohibit gambling like wealth transfer. The core problem is not risk itself because entrepreneurship always involves risk. The problem is zero-sum speculation detached from productive activity. Thus, riba, gharar, and maisir are not merely theologian. They are design principle. They redirect finance away from extraction and toward transparent, real economy link, risk-conscious value creation. This comparison doesn't imply that conventional finance has no value. Conventional finance has built deep capital market, sophisticated risk management tool, and efficient payment system. However, the Islamic critique is that debt-based finance can become excessive when money is treated as a commodity that earns a fixed return regardless of real economic outcome. Islamic finance the stronger this alignment, the stronger the value proposition. The real economy linkage principle is one of the most important operational features of Islamic finance. A valid contract must connect to an asset, a use of right, a service, a commodity, a project, or an enterprise. This requirement is intended to prevent purely money-to-money transaction that generate return without economic substance. Consider two Islamic loop on the slide. Capital is mobilized, then attached to the real asset or enterprises. That asset produce goods, services, trade, or rental value. The return is then shared, paid as rent, or earned as trade margin. In this structure, income is justified by the transformation of capital into something social and economically useful. The conventional speculative channel can be much shorter. Money is lent, interest accrue, and more money is repaid. That might be illegally efficient, but Islamic economic asks whether real value has been created or whether the transaction merely priced the passage of time and the borrower's dependency. This principle is especially relevant today when financial market can become detached from employment, infrastructure, climate resilience, and household welfare. Islamic finance attempt to close that gap. Islamic economic is not complete without its social finance architecture, like zakat, sadaqah, waqf, ensure that the value creation is not limited to commercial return. They provide mechanism for redistribution, social protection, and long-term public benefit. Zakat is obligatory on qualifying wealth and is commonly calculated at 2.5% per year, depending on asset type, nisab, and how. It is distributed to 8 categories mentioned in the Quran. Economically, zakat can support consumption among vulnerable groups, reduce extreme depreciation, and mobilize idle wealth. Sadaqah is voluntary and flexible. It reflects moral generosity and can respond rapidly to social needs. Wakaf is different because it creates a permanent or long-term endowment. Historically, Wakaf supported school, hospital, water system, library, and public infrastructure. Today, the innovation is to integrate this instrument with a modern finance. Cash Wakaf Link Sukuk is Indonesia in one example. Wakaf funds are mobilized through sovereign sukuk and the return support social program. The key point is that Islamic finance include both market value and social value. This slide introduces the main family of akad. The term akad refers to a binding contract, but in Islamic law, a contract is not only a legal form, it is a moral and economic arrangement that define ownership, risk, obligation, and entitlement to return. Mudarabah comes from the idea of undertaking a commercial journey or enterprises where one party provides capital and the other provides effort. Musyarakah derives from partnership or sharing. Murabaha comes from rib, meaning profit, and refers to a cost plus sale with disclosure. Ijara is related to ujrah or ajr, meaning compensation or rent for use fraud. Wakalah means agency where one party acts on behalf of another. Qardul Hasan is benevolent loan without interest. This root meaning matter because they remind us that Islamic finance is contract specific. We cannot simply label a product Sharia compliant. We must ask which contract is used, who owns the asset, who bears the risk, how profit is earned, and whether the substance matches the form. Modern products often combine this contract, but the ethical logic of each akad must remain clear. Profit and loss sharing represent the most distinctive ideal of Islamic finance. In Mudarabah, the capital provider supply fund while the entrepreneur contributes skill, labor, and management. Profit is shared according to pre-agreed ratio. Financial loss is borne by the capital provider unless there is neglect or breach by the entrepreneur. This protects the entrepreneur from granted debt burden while still requiring trust and accountability. In Musyarakah, all partners contribute capital and might also participate in management. Profit might be distributed by arrangement or agreement, but loss follow capital contribution. The diminishing Musyarakah model is widely used in home financing, where the client gradually purchases the bank share. However, profit and loss sharing remain relatively limited in the practice. The reason is not simply lack of will. It involves information asymmetry, moral hazard, weak accounting transparency, legal enforcement constraint, and higher monitoring costs. Banks prefer predictable cash flow, while regulators also prefer instruments that are easier to supervise. Therefore, the academic challenge is to design governance, data system, and risk-sharing contract that make PLS commercially viable rather than merely idealistic. Trade and asset-based financing dominate Islamic banking because they are easier to structure, document, and manage. Murabaha is cost plus sale. The bank purchases an asset and sell it to the client at a known markup. The client pays over time. Its advantage is transparency and predictability, but its weakness is that it can resemble conventional debt if the bank doesn't genuinely assume ownership and asset risk. Ijarah transfer use fraud rather than ownership. The client benefits from using the asset while the lessor earns rent. Istisna is important for construction and manufacturing because it allows financing of assets that will be produced in the future. The critical debate is form versus substance. If the contract is structured only to replicate interest through the legal engineering, then its value proposition becomes weak. But if the asset is real, ownership transfer is meaningful, risk is properly allocated, and disclosure is clear, this contract can support genuine real sector financing. For a practitioner, the methodological test is substance. Who owns the asset when risk transfer, how price is disclosed, and whether the transaction adds productive value. Islamic banking operates through a value chain that links depositor, banks, and entrepreneur. In the theoretical two-tier Mudarabah model, depositor provides fund to the bank, and the bank uses those funds to finance entrepreneur or asset. The bank might act first as mudarib and then as a rabal al-mal. In the practice, Islamic bank use multiple deposit and financing structure: wadiyah, card, investment account, murabaha, ijarah, wakala, and the other. This complexity requires strong governance. Sharia Supervisory Board review contract and operation. IOFI provide accounting, auditing, governance, and Sharia standard. IFSB provide prudential standard and stability guidance. The current issue is that Islamic banking is becoming more mainstream and more digital. As a product move into mobile banking, embedded finance, and platform-based services, Sharia governance cannot remain only at the product approval stage. It must include data governance, consumer protection, algorithmic transparency, and continuous audit. The real institutional value of Islamic banking is not only Sharia certification. It is building trust, transparency, and discipline intermediation between safer and productive use of capital. Sukuk are often described as Islamic bond, but that description is incomplete. A conventional bond represents a debt obligation. A Sukuk certificate represents undivided beneficial ownership in an asset, use of services, project, or investment activity. The return should come from the performance or use of that underlying asset or venture. The market has become globally significant. Fitch reported that global Sukuk outstanding crossed 1 trillion at the end 2025. And S&P Global Rating estimated Sukuk issuance at 264.8 billion in 2025, with continued growth expected in 2026. This growth is driven by sovereign fund needs, infrastructure investment, bank liquidity management, and investor demand in the GCC, ASEAN, and Turkey. The value proposition of Sukuk lie in the linking capital market to real asset and project. Ijara Sukuk use lease income, Mudharabah Sukuk use profit sharing, Musyarakah Sukuk use joint venture logic, and Wakalah Sukuk use agency managed portfolios. However, a scholar must also emphasize the critic. If the Sukuk are structured only as debt-like instrument with a limited asset risk, the ethical promise is diluted. The future of Sukuk depends on strengthening genuine ownership, disclosure, and asset performance linkage. Green and sustainable Sukuk represent one of the most important frontiers of Islamic finance. They connect Maqasid Syariah with the climate finance, energy transition, social resilience, and sustainable development goal. In 2018, Indonesia issued the world's first sovereign green Sukuk, amount 1.25 billion, demonstrating that the sovereign Islamic instrument can mobilize both Islamic and conventional ESG investors. The market is accelerating. Fitch reported that the global ESG Sukuk issuance rose by more than 60% by 18.5 billion in 2025 and expect ESG Sukuk outstanding to exceed 70 billion by the end of 2026. This growth is significant because it shows convergence between Sharia compliant finance and the global sustainable finance. Typical use of proceeds include renewable energy, clean transport, water and waste management, green building, energy efficiency, and the climate adaptation. These are not only environmental projects, they also protect life, wealth, and the future generation. The main current issue is integrity. Green Sukuk must avoid greenwashing, issuer need credible framework, external review, allocation reporting, impact reporting, and alignment with national taxonomy. Without measurable impact, sustainability becomes a label rather than value creation. Takaful demonstrates how Islamic finance handles risk through cooperation rather than pure transfer. In a conventional insurance, the insured pay a premium and transfer risk to the issuer. In Takaful, participants contribute to share tabarruk fund, and the fund compensates members who suffer loss. The operator manages the fund through Wakalah, Mudharabah, hybrid, or WAF-based model. The value proposition is mutual protection. Participants are not merely customers buying protection from a company, they are members of cooperative risk pool. Surplus, depending on the model and regulation, might be returned to participants or retained for reserve. This model is increasingly relevant today because the global protection gap remains large. Households and SMEs face health risk, disaster risk, climate risk, cyber risk, and income volatility. A well-designed takaful system can expand financial inclusion while maintaining Sharia-compliant investment of reserve. However, takaful also face challenge: pricing, adequacy, solvency, retakaful, capacity, governance of surplus distribution, and public understanding. The future depends on the stronger actuarial capacity, digital distribution, and clear differentiation from conventional. Islamic fintech is not simply the digitalization of Islamic banking. It is the possibility of scaling value creation through lower transaction costs, wider access, and more transparent data. Digital Islamic Bank can reach customers who are excluded from branch-based finance. Sharia-compliant crowdfunding can channel capital to SMEs and social enterprises. Blockchain can improve traceability in the Sukuk and Waqf. Robo-advisory can help retail investors screen portfolio and calculate zakat obligation. The inclusion potential is substantial, especially in the Muslim-majority countries with the large unbanked and underbanked population. Fintech can reduce documentation friction, enable micro-investment, support remittance, and link donor or investor directly to the social impact project. But technology is not automatically ethical. Islamic fintech must address data privacy, cybersecurity, consumer protection, algorithmic bias, platform governance, and Sharia auditability. A digital product can be Sharia compliant in the contract form, but harmful in the practice if it encourages over indebtedness or opaque fees. The strongest Islamic fintech proposition is therefore not speed alone. It is trustworthy, transparent, affordable, and real economy-linked financial inclusion. This slide asks a critical methodological question. How do we measure the value created by Islamic finance? Profitability remains important because institution must be sustainable. However, Islamic finance requires broader indicator. A profit and loss sharing ratio tells us whether institutions are genuinely supporting entrepreneurship or relying mainly on the low-risk sale-based contract. A real sector financing ratio measures whether funds are connected to asset and productive activity. Zakat and Waqf collection growth indicate the strength of the social finance layer. A financial inclusion index shows whether Islamic finance reaches SMEs, youth, women, rural household, and previously unbanked population. The Maqasid Sharia Index is useful because it translates higher objectives into measurable performance dimensions such as education, justice, and public interest. For example, an Islamic bank shouldn't only report return on asset and capital adequacy, it should also report SMEs financing, social fund mobilization, responsible investment, customer fairness, and environmental impact. The current frontier is impact measurement. Islamic finance must move from claiming ethical identity to demonstrating measurable welfare, distributional, and sustainability outcome. This slide presents the critical debate. First, Sharia arbitrage occurs when products use Islamic legal form but replicate conventional debt in substance. This critique is serious because it affects credibility. Second, standardization remains difficult because different jurisdictions use different fiqh interpretation, Sharia board, legal system, and regulatory framework. A current example is debate around IOFI draft Sharia Standard 62 on the Sukuk. The standard aims to strengthen Sharia authenticity by emphasizing genuine asset ownership and resharing. Supporters see it as a correction to debt-like Sukuk structure. Critics worry that mandatory legal transfer or asset could increase complexity, rise transaction costs, reduce liquidity, and fragment cross-border issuance. The balanced view is that the industry needs stronger substance, but implementation must be gradual, legally workable, and market sensitive. Third, profit and loss sharing remain limited, despite being the ideological core. Fourth, human capital constraints are real. The industry needs scholars who understand modern finance and practitioners who understand fiqh. The path forward is not to abandon innovation, but to deepen substance, stronger governance, better data, improve transparency, and product that genuinely share risk and create a real value. Let me close with the central message of the presentation. Islamic economic and finance should be understood as a value creation paradigm. Its foundation is Tawheed, its objective is Falah, its ethical test is Maqasid Sharia, and its operational discipline is the linkage between return, ownership, risk, assets, services, enterprises, or social contribution. The prohibition of riba, gharar, and maisir are therefore not merely legal boundaries. They are mechanisms that prevent finance from becoming exploitative, opaque, or detached from production. The contract system provides instruments for trade, leasing, partnership, agency, and benevolence. Islamic banking intermediate funds, Sukuk mobilize capital for asset and infrastructure, Takaful organize mutual protection, Zakat and Waqf ensure that social redistribution is built into the system. The contemporary agenda is clear. The industry must close the gap between ideal and practices, especially in the profit and loss sharing, green impact reporting, fintech governance, and Sukuk authenticity. Growth is encouraging, but credibility depends on substance. Thank you very much for your attention. Let's connect and discuss Islamic economic and finance in the comment section below. Just remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're interested in teaching, reviewing, or research collaboration, contact me via the email or WhatsApp number listed in this description. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.